Greetings everyone! I have another tier list video for you today, but it's no ordinary tier list, it's a Pokémon tier list. I have never done Pokémon content before, but it's 2024 and I wanna keep trying out new things. And yeah, this is certainly one of them. The idea came to me when I watched a video of Sephiron. He also went on this website and filled this graph with his favorite Pokemon, and I want to do the same. If you want to do this yourself, then I keep a link in the description as well as to Sephiron's channel. And yeah, tell me in the comments what kind of tier list you want to see next. Okay, so since this is not a tier list on Tier Maker, this works a bit different than usual. You see, we have on the left each generation, and on the top we have different categories like all the typings and some ordinary ones at the back. And for example, if I click on the grass type in Gen 1, then we can see every single Gen 1 grass type here. And when I'm finished, you will be able to see a graph with every single favorite Pokemon of mine. So we're going to start with the best normal type from Generation 1. And for me there aren't much contenders here, since in my opinion, Gen 1 normal types aren't that great.
I mean, it's alright, like...
But I have a favorite here, and that's certainly Eevee. Whenever I catch an Eevee, I'm happy about it, simply because I know that I will have a lot of different options for my team. It's a really unique concept that it can turn to so many different Pokemon. And the design is also very cute. The best Gen 1 fire type is a bit trickier for me, because we have three all-time favorites, and those are Ninetales, Arcanine and Charizard. But I think I have to pick Charizard here. I know it's cool nowadays to hate on Charizard. That doesn't make me like it less. It's really iconic, it's strong. Yeah, I love it. Okay, water type, one of the most common types out there, and you can see that in Gen 1 already. Here we also have some pretty iconic ones like Gyarados, but I think I'm going with Slowbro here. A thing you have to know about me is that I really like tanky Pokemon, so there are going to be quite some tanky Pokemon in this graph. In the grass types category, there's only one option for me, and that's Victreebel. Victreebel is one of my favorite mons of all time. And whenever I play a Generation 1 game, Victreebel is going on my team no matter what. So for the electric types, I don't have that many options. I think Jolteon is going on here. It's one of my favorite evolutions. It's really unique, really fast, and has a good move pool. Yeah, that's my pick. So ice types, I think I'm going to shock a few people by not picking Lapras here. I think Dugong is actually my favorite. Sure, Lapras is definitely stronger, but Dugong's design is really elegant and it just looks so special. Fighting types, I think Primeape is a really good contender here, especially since it gained a new evolution in Gen 9. But my favorite here is Poliwrath. The first Pokemon game I played was Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I loved using Poliwrath on my first team. Water fighting is a really interesting type combination, and whenever I use it, I just had a blast. So yeah, it has a special place in my heart, this one. So, Poison type is one of my favorite typings in the game, and we have some good options like Tentacruel. I also really like Muk. For my favorite, I have to pick Weezing though. Weezing is just another one of these tanky Pokemon that is just so much fun to use. Whenever I use it, I just have a great time. Simply because its move pool is so versatile, and yeah, it's pretty much a wall. So for my favorite ground types, I think I'm not going with Nidoqueen or Nidoking, even though they are really amazing. I think I'm going with Sandslash. I don't know, Sandslash was always a Pokemon that I liked. For flying types, of course, Gyarados is again right there, but honestly, the fact that it's a flying type really confuses me. Typings like Dragon or Dark would fit it much better. At least it got the Dark type when it got its Mega Evolution, but I mean, they had plenty of opportunities to rework it and get rid of this dumb flying type, so I'm not going to pick it here, and instead considering either Zubat or Zapdos. Problem is Zubat is way too annoying, so yeah, Zapdos is my pick. Really great legendary. For the Psychic category, it's going to be Mewtwo. I mean, it's seriously one of the best legendaries they've ever made. It has one of the best stories, it has a great design, it is really strong. And I also really like playing it in Smash Bros. So yeah. The Bug type is one that I really like, but Gen 1 sucked in that department. I mean, look at these. Sure, Beedrill looks quite cool, but it's useless when you're not Mega Evolving it. I kinda like Venonat, but I think Cypher is probably the best pick here, since it's not only pretty cool design-wise, but it's also viable if you put an Eviolite on it. It also got 2 pretty cool evolutions in later generations. For Rock type, I'm probably picking Omastar. Just a pretty nice fossil, I like it. For Ghost types, we don't really have many choices, since we only have the Ghastly evolution line. I mean, Haunter is probably a consideration for many people, but I have to pick Gengar here. I mean, Gengar could win here if there would be other Ghost types as well. For Dragon, also just one line here. And even though I like Dratini a lot, I think Dragonite is a better option overall, even though I don't love it as much as other people do. Yeah, there were no Dark-type Pokemon in Gen 1 yet, but Magnemite and Magneton got the Steel-type added in Gen 2, so yeah. Magneton is going in for the Steel category, and I mean, I used it in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and it was a great partner, so not a bad option. So for fairies, I think I go Clefairy, because Wigglytuff isn't as good as Clefable in battle. Of course, the question comes up then, why I don't pick Clefable. I like Clefairy a bit better, but the evolution line here wins for me. Okay, so we have reached the special categories, and the first one here are the starter Pokemon. Of course, we have one of the most iconic trios of all time: Venusaur, Charizard and Blastoise. And Blastoise is overall pretty solid, but no way near my favorites. Venusaur is pretty cool, especially since it has a secondary poison typing and it's really bulky. But Charizard is overall my favorite. Okay, my favorite gimmick form. Okay, here are all the Megas and Gigantamax forms. Of course, we have forms like Mega Alakazam or Mega Gengar, and I even like Gigantamax Kingler very much. But how can I not pick Mega Charizard X here? I mean, look at it. It's a black Charizard with blue flames. It also got the dragon typing added. It's amazing. I have to pick that one. It's also really strong. My favorite legend is undeniably Mewtwo, even though Zapdos and Mew are also really great. And now I have to determine which one is my favorite Pokemon of Gen 1. For my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon, I'm going with Victory Bell here. I just have a lot of memories with this Pokemon. I like its typing, and yeah, it never let me down in battle. Really love this mon. Okay, let's continue with Generation 2. My favorite normal Pokemon in here isn't as easy to determine as I thought it would be. I really like Ursaring and Teddiursa, and Stantler is a Pokemon that I recently discovered being used in competitive, and honestly, it's really creative and cool. Like, I never really gave a shit about this Pokemon, but when I saw how great it got in competitive, yeah, I just began to really like it. But we have to consider that Ferret is also in this selection, and I think I'm going to pick Ferret. I mean, look at it. It's peak design. It may not be the strongest, and it may not have the most interesting typing, but I love this little guy nonetheless. Okay, so for the fire types, I'm for sure picking Houndoom. It's a literal hellhound. For the water types, I think I'm picking Quagsire. Yeah, I really love this one. The grass solution is kinda horrible, honestly. Not even the starter is one that I like. But Bellossom is a Pokemon that I still quite like, especially since it's a new member of the Vileplume evolution line, and I like that line a lot. And I also like split evolutions. Electric types. I mean, I really like Pichu, but Ampharos has to get the spot. For my favorite ice type, I'm definitely picking Swinub. It's freaking adorable, and I love the whole evolution line, especially when they added Mamoswine. That one is one of my favorite mons of all time, so we're going to see that later too. The fighting type choices here are kinda horrible, so Heracross it is, because that one is the only one that I like. For the poison Pokemon, I'm definitely going with Crobat. Crobat is the one that made the Zubat line one of the best evolution lines out there, and also gave it a sense other than annoying you all the time when you step in caves. For the ground types, I'm picking Donphan. Really like the design, and it's also not too bad in battle. Flying is an interesting selection, but Murkrow is getting picked here. Really like the design. Dark Flying is a great typing, and it also got really strong in Gen 9 competitive. So, the Psychic Pokemon. Okay, we have all the unknown here. Fuck unknown, I hate that Pokemon. It's so much missed potential. I love Wobbuffet due to the anime, but how can I not pick Espeon here? Espeon is great. Okay, bug types are still not great in Gen 2, but I really love Fortress. Definitely a Pokemon that doesn't get enough love. Rock type, For me, there's no other contender than Tyranitar. Really strong, and the fact that it has the ability Sandstorm just makes it the best choice when you want to play a Sandstorm team. Just a cool design overall. Yeah, for Ghost types we even have less options than in Gen 1. We have to pick Misdreavus here. Same with Dragon types, but at least Kingdra is one that I would consider to be one of my favorites, so not too sad about that. For the Dark types, I have picked most of these, and since I want to give as many Pokemon a spot as I can, I'm picking Umbreon, my favorite evolution here. For the Steel types, I'm picking Steelix, since it made Onix amazing. Onix is a Pokemon that I never liked, but Steelix is epic in every way. For the Fairy Pokemon, I'm going with Azumarill, since it's definitely the most useful out of these. The starters in this region, I would consider this trio one of the weakest ones ever made. But Feraligatr is a starter that I actually really like. It has a pretty good move pool and it is not a weak Pokemon at all. My favorite gimmick is definitely going to be Mega Houndoom. I also really like Mega Ampharos and Mega Steelix, but Mega Houndoom's design is just 11 out of 10, and it's quite great to see that Houndoom got some love in Gen 6. My favorite legend here is going to be Entei. Suicune is also a pretty good option, and I like Ho and Lugia. But Lugia is another one of these mons that have a typing that I just don't understand. Why is it Psychic type? I mean, I get the flying part, but couldn't they just make it Water Dragon, or at least Water Flying? Anyways, Entei is getting the vote here. And my favorite Generation 2 Pokemon, another choice that is not going to be easy, especially when I see that I have Pokemon like Crobat and Umbreon in here, but the overall winner is going to be Umbreon. Talked about how much I like tanky Pokemon, and this is definitely one of the more tanky evolutions. The design is just perfect in every way. It has a great shiny. Generation 3 is next and one of the most beloved ones out there, and I have to agree that it's a really strong one. Starting with the normal types, I'm probably going with Slacking. I know it's a lazy ass fucker with a horrible ability, but it's really strong. I like its attitude. I have to pick this one here. For fire types, I'm going with Camerupt. The fusion of a camel and a volcano is just so creative. And I love the fire ground typing. Okay, in the water type category we have some real bangers. I love Ludicolo. Sharpedo is amazing. Milotic is great. Overall, I would say my favorite is Kyogre though. This is like one of these Pokemon that when I see it, I know why it's called legendary. Like this is a Pokemon that deserves its legendary status. For grass type, I have to pick Ludicolo since it's one of my favorite mons and it's going to be my last chance here. Electric types fucking sucked in this generation. I think I'm going to pick Manectric, since these other two are just useless in battle, and at least Manectric is pretty cool and competitive. For the ice types, I'm picking Spheal. Spheal has one of the most adorable designs out there, I love this one. Fighting types, I think I'm going with Blaziken. I mean, Blaziken is an amazing starter. I mean, we're getting to the starters later, but I have to say that the starters are kinda 10 out of 10 in this generation. So Blaziken kinda needs a spot here. Poison types are kinda weak, but Viper has a great design, and I love that it has beef with Zangu all the time, so yeah, picking this one. Ground types, again I have to give the starter some love. Swampert is one of the best starters ever made. Flying types, ooh. Now I have to decide between Rayquaza and Salamence. Rayquaza is one of my favorite legendaries ever. So yeah, I kinda have to pick Rayquaza here. Psychic. Okay, I didn't know that they add 2 extra unknown in Gen 3. Whatever. I'm picking another legend, and that is Latias. Metagross is pretty sick, but we are going to see that one in one of the later categories. So Latias it is. For bugs, my pick is gonna be Shedinja, because it's a really unique Pokemon with a great evolution method. It's really interesting. It's one of the most unique Pokemon ever. For rock type, I'm gonna go with Aggron, just epic. Ooh, now we finally have some options in the ghost category. I really like Dusclops, but I think Sableye is getting this spot here. For the dragons, now I can pick Salamence. Yeah, Flygon is also a gem in this generation. But yeah, Salamence is more my thing, I would say. In the dark category, I have to pick Sharpedo. Like I promised, I'm going to pick Metagross in Steel. I mean, it's one of the coolest pseudo-legendaries and one of the coolest Steel types ever made. And it's also really fucking strong. Yeah, not many options in the fairy category, so we're just going to pick the best one, Gardevoir. And like I said, when I'm looking at the starters, I have to say this is one of the best trios Game Freak has ever made. All of these are really great, a lot of fun to use. Out of these, I have to say my favorite is Swampert though. The secondary ground typing makes it even more interesting. My favorite form, another one of these hard choices. Man, how am I going to decide this? You know what, I think I'm gonna choose Mega Sableye, a really tactical Pokemon due to its ability. My favorite legend from Gen 3 is between Kyogre and Rayquaza, but I have to pick Rayquaza here since it's one of my favorite legends of all time. And my favorite Generation 3 Pokemon is going to be Camerupt. I mean, like I said, I love the concept behind its design, the fire ground typing. I just have a soft spot for this one. Wasn't an easy choice. I mean, Ludicolo is there, but Camerupt is my pick for Gen 3. Okay, Gen 4 is arguably even stronger than Gen 3, or at least at the same level. And again, starting with the normal types, I'm going here with Staraptor here. It's definitely one of the better regional birds. It also has Intimidate as its ability, which is one of the best abilities and also a really fun one to use. Fire types. Alright, in Gen 4 we had a really limited amount of fire types. So the best choice here is going to be the starter Infernape. Water, I'm going with Gastrodon, I think. And specifically the green one, because I like green, I guess. Grass types. I have to tell you that I think Carnivine is one of these Pokemon that doesn't get enough love. I mean, for me, this is one of the best grass type designs they've ever made. But I kinda cannot pick it here since it's not that great in battle. It has a horrible move pool. So I would love to pick it here, but I'm going with Torterra. Please, Game Freak, make either a regional variant or give it another evolution or just buff it. Whatever. Make Carnivine the Pokemon that it deserves to be, please.
My fellow
Carnivine enjoyers,
our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We will make
Carnivine,
powerful. We will make
Carnivine,
strong. And we will make
Carnivine.
great. Thank you, Ohio. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Electric type is way stronger than in Gen 3. Pokemon like Luxray and Rotom are fucking fantastic. But I'm going with Electivire. It just looks so imposing. For the ice types, there's only one option, and that's Mamoswine. If I wouldn't pick Mamoswine, I couldn't look at myself at the mirror. In the fighting category, we have a very interesting line, and that is the Croagunk line. I like Croagunk and Toxicroak equally. My love for Croagunk comes mainly from its design and from the anime, since it was hilarious in the anime. And Toxicroak is a perfect evolution for it. I think that I like Croagunk a bit more, but yeah, could go either way for me. I'm not picking Lucario here, by the way, since I think Lucario is a bit overrated. Not a bad Mon, but not one that I like actually. For poison types, I'm picking Skuntank, just another one of these bizarre Pokemon that I really like for some reason. The ground type selection is kinda amazing again, and I think I'm going with Gligar here. Another one of these really necessary evolution that they gave us in Gen 4, and they executed it perfectly. Flying types is another easy one for me, and that's Honchkrow. I really like Honchkrow. Love the fact that you can play it as a physical or a special attacker, and they made the most out of Murkrow. The psychic selection is kinda mid, honestly, but Gallade is probably a quite strong Pokemon, yeah. The bug types have a lot of shit in here. I mean, we have the whole Burmy line, like what are these? So I'm picking Yanmega. It has a great ability where it gets faster every turn, and the design is really good. For rock types, I'm picking one of the fossil Bastion, I believe. For the ghost types, I'm kind of struggling here again, because Rotom is amazing, Miss Magius is amazing, I also really like Spiritomb, but we also have one of my favorite legendaries, Giratina, in here. So what the heck am I gonna do here? I think I'm picking Giratina, and I hope I can get Spiritomb in there in the dark type category. Dragon types, I'm definitely going with Garchomp, another one of these easy ones. In the dark category, we have a selection that I really love. I'm glad I already picked Honchkrow and Skuntank, so I just have to decide between Spiritomb and Darkrai. Darkrai is one of the most beloved mythicals out there, but I have to say that I really like Spiritomb. So yeah, I'm going to go with the niche pick here again. Steel types, I have to show some love to Empoleon. And with the fairies, there's no other option than Togekiss. Great Pokemon, and Mime Jr. is kinda mid. So we're going with one of the best evolutions they added in this gen. Personally, I believe that this starter trio right there is even better than Gen 3's trio. So that makes it another one of these 10 out of 10 goated starter lineups. I'm having a pretty hard time deciding between these. I mean, Torterra has probably the most cool and interesting design and also has the ground secondary typing, which I like. Infernape is an amazing and really fast attacker, and Empoleon has one of the best type combinations for a starter Pokemon, and the design is 12 out of 10. I think I have decided that I'm showing my boy Torterra some love. I mean, a turtle that carries like a tree on its back is it's just too cool. My favorite form here is definitely Mega Gallade. I mean, look at it, it has a cape. How much cooler can you get? And my favorite legend is without doubt Giratina. So now I have to pick my favorite Gen 4 Pokemon. And I have to go with Mamoswine. I have too many memories with this Pokemon to not pick it. When they added this evolution, they made one of the best evolution lines ever made. It has an interesting type combination and just everything fits here. I just love this one. Okay, Generation 5 is going to be a bit spicy since it's one of the most controversial gens for sure. And I'm definitely on the pro Gen 5 sides. Not one of my favorite generations ever, but I really liked playing the games. The normal types are kinda mixed bag, honestly, but I'm going with Buffaland here. It's like a Tauros, but a design that I like more, and I really love its signature move, which really gave me some problems when I fought Getsis in the Team Rainbow Rockets story arc for Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Really dangerous opponent. For the fire types, I'm going with Chandelure. I mean, it's one of the fan favorites from this generation. It's well deserved. It's a really strong and fast attacker with an amazing typing Fire Ghost. Definitely a good pick. For the water category, I'm gonna go with the Jellicent. When I played Pokemon Black 2 edition, I used this as my tank since I fell in love with the design, and when I used it I had so much fun due to the fact that its move pool is amazing. You have so many different options in terms of defensive moves, offensive moves. It's a great Pokemon for a playthrough. In the grass section, I'm going with Amoonguss. The imposter is Amoonguss. One of the most infamous competitive Pokemon out there. Probably one of the most annoying as well, but it's another tank, so I like it. In the electric category, Galvantula is going to be the one that I'm choosing, simply because it's one of these really fast attackers that can set up things like a sticky web pretty well. Also, electric and bug is a really interesting type combination. Yeah, the ice types in this generation are kinda ass, honestly. I think I'm going with one of the Curums here, since I either don't like the other ones or I just don't care. And And Kyurem is at least a pretty cool legendary. Doesn't really matter which one of these I pick. I think I'm picking Kyurem White. Yeah. Fighting types, I'm going with Mi and Xiao. It's a real bummer that you can get it so late in the game because I really like this mon. Oh, in the poison category we have another selection that is kinda garbage. I think I'm changing here to the Imposter. And in grass I'm switching over to Lilligant, I guess. Lilligant is one of my top choices. Ground is one where I instantly spotted my favorite evolution line, and that is the Crocodile line. So Crocodile is getting voted. I mean, it has two amazing abilities, one of them being Intimidate. It's a really strong and fast Pokemon. Its design is awesome. What more do I have even to say? Flying types, nah, kinda mid, honestly. I think Braviary is kinda nice. Arctiops is also not too bad, but its ability kinda sucks and it holds it back. I actually go with Thundurus because I kinda start to like the genies due to the fact that they are pretty good in competitive. I don't love them or anything, but I think Thundurus is my favorite from this flying selection. The psychic category might honestly be the shittiest one we've had yet.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
I mean, what are those? Like, so many garbage Pokemon in here. But there's one I really like, and that is Victini. It's adorable, it always shows you the peace sign, has an interesting type combination with fire and psychic. One of my favorites from this gen for sure. And definitely the best psychic option in this gen, holy damn. Okay, in the bug categories we have some real gems. I already picked Galvantula, which is probably my favorite from all of those. And my second favorite is going to be Volcarona. One of the strongest bug types out there. Rock types. My rock choice is probably going to surprise a few people again. Because I really like Crustle and... Wie heißt du nochmal? Dwebble. Yeah, they are definitely clones of Paras and Parasect. But I really like their designs, their type combinations. And whenever I watch a Nuzlocke in Gen 5, these two manage to always kill at least one Pokemon, or they manage to wipe a whole run, and that's kinda hilarious to me. So they are not even that weak. So yeah, Crustle is my kinda odd but deserved pick. In the Ghost section we have quite some bangers. Already picked Chandelure and Jellicent. We have to choose between the Gigalith and the Cofagrigus line. Both of them are great, but Cofagrigus just has an amazing concept and design. Dragon types. I'm just getting straight to the point. Hydreigon is my pick. One of the strongest Pokemon out there, and one of these pseudo legendaries and dragon Pokemon that is more on the creative side design wise. The dark types are also pretty sick here. I have to give my boy Scrafty a slot here due to the fact that I really love this Pokemon. It has great defense and attack stats, a great move pool, and Intimidate as an ability. The design is really creative. I mean, it's a lizard that uses its shed skin as armor or clothes or whatever. When I played through Black 2, I began to love it. The steel types... aren't even that outstanding, but I'm probably choosing Bishop, especially when I'm considering Gen 9, where I began to love the Bishop line even more. So Bishop is getting picked. Yeah, fairies, not too many options, but they are not bad options. I know I'm probably getting some hate when I'm saying this, but the Gen 5 starters are probably the weakest ones next to the Gen 2 starters. Like I said, no starter trio is completely horrible or whatever, but there are definitely some worse than others. I mean, these ones are either design-wise not really my thing, and they are not even that strong compared to other starters. Embor is not my thing at all. In the case of Samurott, I have to say that I really love its Hisuian version. This one is just kinda okay. Superior was the starter that I picked the most in Gen 5. Many love this one, and I love its design. It's definitely one of the coolest looking grass type starters. But in battle, it wasn't bad or anything, but it didn't amaze me. I didn't have that much fun fighting with it. It's a fast, more defensive Pokemon, which is a bit weird, but it wouldn't be too much of a bummer if its move pool would be better, but unfortunately it isn't. Overall, I still have to pick Superior as my favorite Gen 5 starter, and even though I have said negative things about this Pokemon, I still like it, I would say. It's more of a B tier starter for me, but for sure my favorite out of these, since Hisuian Samurott isn't available here. My favorite form in here is going to be Gigantamax Garbodor. This is one of these Gigantamax forms that are more deserved, since it's a form of a Pokemon that doesn't get too much love, so I support that. My favorite legend from this gen is probably either Victini, Thundurus or Kyurem. Overall a pretty weak gen in terms of legendaries, but I think I'm going to pick Thundurus over Victini, giving Thundurus a slight edge over Victini. Okay, and now my favorite Pokemon from one of the most controversial generations out there is going to be Galvantula, I would say. This Pokemon pretty much has it all. Okay, so we pretty much made it halfway through, and this already took a shit ton of time. Yeah, one of these videos that I'm going to regret making when I'm editing it. But anyways, let's keep moving. Alright, next one on the list is Gen 6. Best normal type, Bunnelby is really cute. Perfect design, and is also a secondary ground type. But then they had to ruin it with its evolution Diggersby. So I think I'm going with Helioptile here, even though I don't know what the electric type has to offer in this gen. Maybe we'll change it. Okay, fire types. I'm going with Talonflame, one of the best regional birds ever. Water type has to go to Greninja, one of the coolest starters out there. Had a great role in the anime, is amazing in Smash Bros. Love that one. Okay, grass type. I'm going with Trevenant, simply because the idea for a possessed tree is just awesome, and it's also pretty good with its ability, which lets it recover if you switch it out. Okay, electric type. I see we have to switch. We are going to pick Helioptile here, and for normal type, I think I'm going with Bunnelby, even though I hate its evolution. Bunnelby itself is great. Uh, Ice type is pretty meh, honestly. The thing is, I'm trying to avoid special forms in the normal category, but if I'm not confident to pick any of the normal selection, I think I go with Megas and whatever, and I think Mega Glalie is my favorite out of these. That's better than picking something I'm not comfortable with. Fighting type is probably Harlucha. Great design and signature move, love it. Also was pretty sick in the anime. Poison type, not much to pick here. But even if there would have been multiple poison types to pick, I would have picked Dragalge anyways, because it's an awesome poison and dragon type, and a really underrated one in my opinion. Don't know why this Pokemon gets hate at all. Ground types suck. I already talked about how I despise this one, and Zygarde is a very disappointing legendary. So, since I love Camerupt so much, I'm going with Mega Camerupt. Flying. I'm going with Noivern here. Psychic. I have to go with Malamar here. I also really like Inkay, but Malamar is, in my opinion, perfect. The way that Inkay evolves is just so hilarious that you have to turn your 3S upside down, and the evolution is basically an Inkay but upside down. It's just perfect. Yeah, the bug types were kinda disappointing because we only have one line and it's basically Butterfree but a bit more colorful, I guess. So I'm going to pick a Mega here, and that's Mega Beedrill. Rock types. We have the best fossil of all time, Tyrantrum. As a child, I was obsessed with dinosaurs, especially the T-Rex. And this is literally a T-Rex with a beard and a crown, and the dragon typing. It's perfect, 10 out of 10. Ghost types were pretty strong in this gen. Since we already picked Trevenant, I'm going with Aegislash, one of the best typings in the game, and amazing both offensively and defensively. Dragon types. We picked quite a bunch of them. I think I like Goodra enough to not pick a Mega here, so I'm giving Goodra a spot. Dark types. Not too much left here. Let me see, maybe I'll get Greninja into the dark types and I switch my water pick then. Yeah, I think Clawitzer is pretty underrated. And for Steel, not that big of a fan of Klefki. I think Mega Steelix deserves this spot, yeah. Now, since this is the generation that introduced fairies, we have quite a bunch of them. The one that impressed me the most is the evolution Sylveon. Sylveon is pretty great and competitively also very useful. The best starter is without a doubt Greninja. Don't have to think about it. And now we have the best special form. This is going to be a bit more difficult. I mean, I already gave Mega Charizard, Mega Houndoom, and Mega Sableye a spot, as well as Mega Gallade. My favorites in general is probably Mega Charizard X, but I think I wanna represent another Mega Evolution that I really enjoy, and that's Mega Alakazam. In terms of legendaries, I'm going with Hooper. Especially Hooper Unbound is my favorite in this selection. Speaking of favorites, my personal favorite in Gen 6 is Tyrantrum. I mean, this is literally my childhood dream of a Pokemon. Now we have a really special gen for me, and that's Gen 7. The first Pokemon generation that I played myself. Before that I only watched Pokemon Let's Plays and Nuzlockes on YouTube. But this is the gen where I entered the franchise. So I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I especially love the Pokemon in Alola. So let's start with the normal types. Toucannon already caught my eye. There's also Drampa and Komala. I believe Toucannon deserves a spot. Maybe I'll switch when I have nothing better for flying, but now we go with this one. For fire I have to pick my first and favorite starter of all time, Incineroar. One of the strongest Pokemon of all time, which is especially relevant in the competitive meta nowadays. This guy is almost unstoppable. He has an amazing move pool, amazing ability. Don't even have to talk about the design, that's just peak character design. It's also one of the most fun characters to play in Super Smash Bros. We also had some really strong water types in here, but I think I'm going with the water starter. Simply because Primarina is a literal tank, especially if you try to attack it with special attacks. It has a secondary fairy typing. The design is again so creative, an amazing starter. Okay, grass types. There's Alolan Executor, which I really love. Decidueye is great. Shinotic is also pretty underrated, but I'm going with Alolan Executor. It's a perfect regional variant. It's really hilarious and very fun to use. Electric types. From this selection, my favorites are definitely Vikavolt, Alolan Raichu and Tapu Koko. Since I had Vikavolt on my first team, I'm going with Vikavolt. Best ice type is going to Alolan Ninetales. They made one of the prettiest Pokemon even prettier, and it's again really strong and fast. Fighting types, honestly, not even the best selection. Kommo is kinda cool, yeah. Poison Pokemon were really amazing in this gen. We have the hella annoying wall Toxapex. We have Salazzle. Alolan Muk is probably a bit in front of them in terms of being my favorite. Ground types, don't have to think about it. It's Mudsdale. When I used it in Ultra Sun, it was literally the MVP of the whole team. Especially with its ability, which boosts its defense stat the more often it gets hit. And I talked enough about how much I love tanky Pokemon. This is one of the best ones. Flying types. Yeah, I think I'm going with Toucannon in this one, even though this Oricorio is pretty cool. And Rowlet is of course adorable. But there were other normal types I was already considering to pick, so Toucannon is going to be in flying, and for normal I'll just pick Komala. Yeah, Komala is amazing. Psychic types. Yeah, it's going to be Alolan Raichu, one of my favorite electric types that I've ever used. Bug types is pretty difficult for me, because I love Golisopod, and Ribombee is a contender for being one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Since there's no free slot in water, I have to go with Golisopod though. Rock types is definitely going to be one of the Lycanrocs. I don't really like the Dusk form, but these two are amazing, so I'm going with this one. Ghost types, don't even have to think about it. Mimikyu, love this little critter. For dragon types, I'm going with Turtonator. I used it on my Ultra Sun team and it was really fun, especially its signature move is a pretty tactical move. In the dark type category, yes, I think I'm going with Alolan Muk in here. And for poison, I can either go with Toxapex or with Salazzle. And I believe I like Toxapex a teensy tiny bit more. Steel. What do I choose for Steel? Probably a Lowland Sandslash. Yeah. And for fairies, I 100% have to pick Ribombee. Favorite starters? This is probably either the best or the second best starter trio ever. If the Decidueye would be more of a faster attacker, then all of these would be 11 out of 10 perfect. Really amazing starter trio. They are all incredibly strong in their own ways. They have great move pools, great designs, and they all have an interesting secondary type. But yeah, I already talked about it enough. Incineroar is the best starter in here and my favorite starter ever. Okay, favorite gimmick form. Since this is the first region to introduce regional variants, we can pick one of these. Forms like Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Exeggutor, and Alolan Muk are really amazing. Also, Alolan Marowak and Alolan Sandslash are pretty awesome, but my favorite out of these has to be Raichu. My favorite legend. This generation had a lot of great legends. Tapu Koko was pretty great. The other Tapus are also very interesting and especially fitting for a region based on Hawaii.
Knock knock. Who's there? Hawaii. Hawaii who? I'm good. How are you?
The box art legendaries are pretty good, but my favorite is going to be Ultra Necrozma, simply because its design is out of this world, and Necrozma had a very interesting story in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. This form is simply the most epic one, since you had one of the most difficult boss fights in any Pokemon game against it. So yeah, pretty memorable. And yeah, my favorite Pokemon out of all of these is Mimikyu, no doubt. Would be way harder if Mimikyu wouldn't exist, because I love all of these Alolan Pokemon, but Mimikyu is the front runner here. Now we're going with another very controversial gen, and that's Gen 8, because this generation not only includes Sword and Shield, but also Legends Arceus, both games which have pretty negative fan reviews. But the best thing about these games were definitely the new Pokemon. The three that catch my eye in here are Obstagoon, Ursaluna, and Hisuian Zoroark. And since I believe I will see Ursaluna later, I will pick Hisuian Zoroark. Really great design, and especially the type combination normal ghost is just wow, that's just great. Fire types, I'm going for now with Centiskorch, one of my favorite bugs. I may have to choose it for the bug type, and then I'll switch water type, as we would say in Britain. Could possibly go to Barraskewda, but I see that Hisuian Samurott is in here, and this completely redeemed Samurott for me. It gained a secondary typing, its design became even cooler, its move pool became even greater. I have a really big soft spot for this one. They totally nailed this version of Samurott. Grass. Not that easy to choose any of these. I really like the Applin line. The starter's obviously great, and Hisuian Decidueye is probably even a bit cooler than the normal one. And yeah, I believe that's the reason why I'm even choosing it. Yeah. Electric types. We had some really amazing ones. Like both of the Toxtricities. I especially like the low-key form. Boltund is one of these really fast and versatile attackers, especially with its ability, which makes that biting moves receive even more power. My girlfriend also really loves Morpeko, so I have to take that one in consideration. But I think Boltund is so great that I'll pick it here. It was really difficult for me to not include it in my Gala team. For the ice types, I'm going with Frostmoth. Snom, the previous form, is one of the most adorable bugs to ever exist and got one of the prettiest evolutions ever made. Yes, its ice bug typing makes it one of the most fragile Pokemon ever. It's still pretty fast and strong and has some good abilities. Fighting types, I have to go with Surfetch'd. I mean, they finally gave Farfetch'd the evolution that it needed and 100% deserved. And it turned out to be one of the coolest Pokemon in this gen. So yeah, they nailed this one. Poison types, I have to go with my boy Galarian Weezing. I love already the normal Weezing, but this takes my love for Weezing to another level. The design, you cannot get more British than this. And the fact that it's cleaning the air instead of polluting it is just hilarious to me. Like, the whole design concept is just so clever and out of the box. It's even more fun to play as, since its move pool is great. Its type combination, Poison Fairy, is really interesting. It's an amazing tank, and it gained a very special ability, which makes that every ability on the field is temporarily disabled, which gives room for some amazing tactical play. Enough said, I love this Pokemon. For the ground types, I'm definitely going with Ursaluna. Ursaring needed another evolution, and now this line is perfect. Flying types, I'm going with Corviknight, probably together with Gen 9's regional bird, the best one. Psychic types, I'm probably choosing Galarian Slowking. For the bug types, see, this is the problem. I already picked Frostmoth. I really like Orbeetle, but I think Centiskorch has to be in this particular category. Centiskorch is getting the spot here. And for fire, I'm giving Colossal a spot. Making a coal Pokemon in England is perfect. For the rock types, I'm probably choosing Hisui and Arcanine. The design could have been definitely better, but it's an amazing Pokemon in competitive right now. For the ghost types, I have to go with Poltegeist, because my favorite drink, ich kann nicht mehr reden, my favorite drink to ever exist is tea, and this is a tea ghost Pokemon. It cannot get better than that. And also, when I used it, I made it an absolute pain in the ass to play against, which sucks the life out of you and heals itself up again, so it's a really fun and awesome Pokemon. In the dragon category, I'm going to pick one of the members of the Applin line, since I love that line. My favorite out of these is probably Appleton. In the dark type category, I probably have to go with Overquill, since Quillfish is just like Farfetch'd, one of these Pokemon that needed an evolution and more recognition. Now it got exactly that, and the result is perfect. I love this new evolution. Steel types. Since I picked Corviknight already, my second favorite steel type is either Copperajah or Zacian. Copperajah is really amazing, but I think I have to give the spot Zacian here, since it's one of the coolest legendaries. Yeah. And in the fairy category, I have to go with my boy Grimmsnarl, one of the best competitive support Pokemon ever, since it's one of the best screen setupper and it has access to great signature moves. Love this Pokemon. The best starter in here is probably a tie between Rillaboom and also Hisuian Samurott, but since these three are the main starters from this generation, and I also want to give Rillaboom some recognition, Rillaboom is my favorite starter here. Okay, my favorite form. We have a lot of choices here. I mean, we have some bangers like Hisuian Zoroark, Samurott, Quillfish, and also the Gigantamaxes are pretty amazing, like Toxtricity or Centiskorch. The Pokemon that probably needed their forms the most were Farfetch'd, Zigzagoon and Quillfish. Really close, but have to go with Weezing. My favorite legend in this gen is without a doubt Zacian. And the favorite Pokemon in this gen. It was a really close race between Weezing, Overquill and Centiskorch. But I have to go with Centiskorch here. It's probably equally as fun to play as Weezing, and its move pool is amazing, as well as the design and the Gigantamax slap, so could have gone either way, but Centiskorch has to take the W. And finally, we have reached the final gen, at least for now. And the normal types in this selection are either terrible or pretty great. Of course, I love the Blood Moon Ursaluna.
O cholera, czy to Freddy Fazbear?
Just as equally as I love the normal Ursaluna. The new evolution for Girafarig is great. Cyclizar is pretty underrated. But I think I have to go with Grafaiai. Yeah, Grafaiai is pretty great. It probably needs another evolution to be perfect, but it's already pretty close. My favorite fire type from Paldea is probably Skeledirge. Amazing starter Pokemon. My favorite water type is definitely Palafin. Crazy, strong, and really creative design inspirations. My favorite Paldean grass Pokemon is probably missing in here because it would be Hydrapple. But Hydrapple is not in here yet since the official artwork didn't release yet. It would for 100% be on this list, but it surely isn't. So I'm going to choose something different. I really love Toadscruel as a convergent evolution, but the convergent evolution of Poltegeist is even more amazing, so I'm going with that one. For the electric types, I have to pick Kilowattrel. In my opinion, with Corviknight and Talonflame the best regional birds ever. In the ice category, I'm going with Qianpao, an awesome and really strong legendary. Fighting types. Ooh, we have some really strong ones here, like Great Tusk and also Annihilate and Slitherwing. Slitherwing I will probably choose in Bug, so I think I have to go with Annihilate in fighting. Poison types. Don't need any time to think about this. Clodsire is a perfect Pokemon. Ground types. I either have to go with Ursaluna or with Great Tusk. Honestly, I think I have to pick Great Tusk for ground and the Blood Moon Ursaluna in normal. Because I like both of these more than Grafaiai, even though Grafaiai is great. Flying types, I'm going with Flamigo. I know many people don't like this one, but you gotta give it to my boy Pinkman. He's great.
Yes, science!
In terms of the psychic types, I'm going with Ferregerif. Sprech das richtig auf. Das ist so ein Zungenbrecher. Farigiraf. I'm going with Farigiraf simply because Giraffaric definitely needed an evolution, and they made one of the best results they could have given it. So yeah. In the bug types, I have to go with Slitherwing, one of my favorite bugs ever. They made Volcarona adorable, and I love that. In the rock type category, I'm going with Glamora. Really interesting Pokemon with a pretty neat ability. Ghost types, I'm going with Goldengo. I needed a lot of time to warm up to this Pokemon, but now I think it's awesome and it's one of the strongest ones currently out there. In the dragon category, like I said, I would go Hydrapple, but Hydrapple is not available yet. So I'm going with one of the best Paradox Pokemon in my opinion, and that is Roaring Moon. For dark types, there's no question needed. I'm going with King Gambit. They made the Bishop line one of my favorite lines with this new evolution. It's crazy strong, really cool, and has a really sick evolution method where your Bishop has to prove that it's the strongest Bishop out there.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour. Put in the work, put in the hours, and take what's ours.
For steel types, I'm going with one of the most famous Pokemon from the whole gen, and that is Tinkaton. Literally, the design is perfect. It has one of the best type combinations in the whole game. It's not that much of a heavy hitter as much as it looks like that, but you can very well use it as a defensive supporter. For the fairy category, I'm going with Darkspawn here. I love that little guy and his ability. The best starter for me is Skeledirge because of its awesome typing, move pool, and the fact that it's another defensive starter. My favorite form in here is going to the Convergent evolution of Poltegeist. The favorite legendary, I still have to go with Koraidon, yeah. And my favorite Pokemon from the whole region, I think it's probably Slitherwing. King Gambit is a really close second, and I love the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but I think Slitherwing is getting the spot. Okay, now we have filled every spot we could in each generation, and now it's time to determine which Pokemon are my favorite out of these fuckers of all time. And we're starting with the normal type. In the normal category, my favorite Pokemon is the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Due to the fact that this one and the normal Ursaluna made the Ursaring line one of my favorite Pokemon lines out there. My favorite fire type Pokemon is Incineroar, my first ever starter. My favorite Pokemon with the water typing is Quagsire. I love this derpy dude. My favorite grass type Pokemon is a really close tie between Victreebel and Ludicolo, but ultimately I have to go with Victreebel here. Okay, my favorite electric type Pokemon is Galvantula. My favorite ice type is Mamoswine, one of the greatest new evolutions and part of one of my favorite evolution lines in Pokemon. The best fighting type Pokemon is Poliwrath. My favorite poison type, which is also my favorite type, is Galarian Weezing. My favorite ground type out of all of them is... It was really close, but it's Mudsdale. My MVP in my first ever Pokemon Ultra Sun playthrough. In terms of flying Pokemon Honchkrow. The best psychic Pokemon that I have ever seen is Alolan Raichu, even though Mewtwo is probably one of the Pokemon with the best story overall. My favorite bug type out of all these little buggers is Centiskorch, even though I also really love Golisopod and Slitherwing. My favorite rock type is without doubt Tyrantrum. My favorite ghost type to ever exist is Mimikyu. My favorite dragon type that exists currently is Garchomp. If Hydrapple would be pickable in this list, it probably would have been Hydrapple, but with these circumstances I'm going with Garchomp. My favorite dark type, even though I really struggled, it's Umbreon. The most solid steel type out of all of these is Metagross. Oh boy, my favorite fairy, Ribombee. Now we have reached the special categories and I have to determine which of these is my favorite starter. Honestly, it's no surprise, but it's Incineroar. My favorite special form, Galarian Weezing. My favorite legendary, oh, this is tough. This is tough. I think I'm going with Ultra Necrozma here. And now, the moment we've hopefully all been waiting for. My favorite Pokemon of all time is Mimikyu. The reason why Mimikyu was always destined to be my favorite Pokemon is due to many reasons. First of all, the design is so cute and creepy at the same time. Second, the ghost and fairy typing is just so good, interesting and useful. It has an amazing move pool, amazing ability, and is overall great in battle. One of the greatest aspects why I love this Pokemon more than any of the others is its story. It's a tiny ghost which kills everyone by default who looks at them. Due to this, it has no friends and no company at all. And that's why it crafted itself a costume which looks like the most popular Pokemon with the most friends possibly, Pikachu. This leads him to hate and envy Pikachu, but at the same time it wants to be just like it. This is something so incredibly deep for Pokemon, and that's why I just love this Pokemon so much. Now we are not quite finished. We have some really special categories down here. Starting with favorite regional bird, which is probably going to be Wattrel. My favorite regional mammal is Galarian Zigzagoon, due to the fact that it becomes a really cool and strong Pokemon. My favorite regional bug out of these is Trapinch. My favorite pseudo-legend is probably Garchomp. My favorite Pikachu clone, oh man, we have too many of those. Why the fuck is Mimikyu in here? Literally, this guy isn't even a Pikachu clone. It's not part of the Pikachu family, it just wants to look like Pikachu, that's it. So my favorite Pikachu clone is Morpeko. Favorite evolution is Umbreon. My favorite fossil, Tyrantrum. My favorite regional form out of all of these bangers is Galarian Weezing, of course. My favorite Gigantamax form, I'm picking Centiskorch. My favorite baby in here is going to be Pichu. I love Pichu. My favorite box legendary is probably Giratina. My favorite mythical Pokemon is, I believe, Shaman, yeah. My favorite Ultra Beast out of all of these weirdos is Stack Attacker. My favorite Paradox Pokemon is for sure Slitherwing. My favorite type is probably Poison, even though I also really like Ground, Ghost and Fire. My favorite Pokeball is the Quick Ball. It just saves you a lot of time. What the fuck? My favorite Spinda. I mean, this one doesn't look too bad. Yeah, I like this one. My favorite Vivillon is probably the Pokeball one. My favorite all creamy is, I believe, the caramel one, and it should have strawberries, yeah. My favorite new evolution. Damn. I love a lot of these, but I think that Mamoswine is going to be my pick here. Yeah. If I would have a Pokemon team, it would somewhat look like this probably. I have tried to make a somewhat balanced team with some of my favorite Pokemon, and I think this is the best result I can come up with. Now I'm going to show you the complete graph in its full beauty. This was a video that took a long time, but I think it turned out to be pretty great. I certainly had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, if you want to fill this list yourself, you're free to click on the link and you can compare it to my list here. Yeah, the last thing I have to say for today is thank you for watching. Have a great start into 2024, and I hopefully see you in one of my next videos. See ya.